So basically, like, whatever goes on, that's why it's, I know it's my cherry stream.
Okay.
I like it.
Yes.
Pretty trees are.
Oh, God, I forget.
Supposed to be freezing tonight.
I
know.
I can't even remember. So there was probably 6 years
Clear every morning.
No, that would be 7, 8. Yeah, she went to school of the art institute in Chicago.
And it was dusty, inside.
Really?
Yeah, inside. It was bad. And so-
But I appreciate it, I do appreciate it enough.
Now, when he comes home, does he split time between dad and mom or change your shoes?
He's like, my work, she's
To be like it's one of the university ones. To be involved, I wasn't.
Wow,
You know,
that's nuts.
it's not, and they don't give out, graduation tickets.
They don't?
No.
First come, first serve?
So it's gonna be, I said, I was with David pick me up and I'll see him. I'm gonna watch this and not.
Good evening, everyone. This is a special council meeting of the South Russell Village Council. Today is Tuesday, April 18th, and it's 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Galicki.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Bell.
Here.
Berger.
Here.
Ken.
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the salts from the street committee.
Motion to approve up to 1,000 tons committed by the village to ODOT and authorize the street commissioner to submit electronically to ODOT for that tonnage for the salt program.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
One question, I know we had a fairly mild winter. Is that going to be, and I know we're building a new salt dome, but is what we're asking for going to exceed the capacity for storage?
It's a great question.
No, it won't. I mean, that's easy to say no, but we've almost got a full dome right now. And now we're ordering more.
This is for next year.
I understand.
That's used until after 2024.
Because I just didn't anticipate that we would be using any salt between now and next year. If the committee feels that pretty secure that we're going to need all this.
Well, the salt that's in the dome right now, some of that's going to be used, hopefully not, but in October, November, December. And then we start beginning to get delivery in January.
If need be, we didn't order this until April.
Incremental, but you know what, you raise a great point, and I think this time next year, maybe we start being a little more, see what the trends are. If the winters continue to be mild, hey, we probably need to lower this.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other discussion?
Just one point, we used to order like 1,500, 1,700 tons, 1,700, and we went down to 15, and we went down to 1,000.
Here's no more discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion passes. Okay, finance, Dennis will take this one, please, the ordinance and resolution.
All right, second reading on an ordinance amending the annual appropriations, increasing the Manabrook expenses, $19,000. Second reading.
Thank you. All right, we're now into the stormwater discussion. First of all, thank you all for coming out. This is kind of a follow-up from our first meeting in January, and I have some slides I want to talk about. Our Public Utilities Committee is Councilman Mark Porter, Councilman Chris Berger. They will be adding in quite a bit of their comments. And this is kind of a free-flowing discussion, presentation, whatever you want to call it. So when you have questions, just ask. The agenda is to talk about, we'll talk about the Manor Brook floodplain project, which we just completed. We'll talk about a proposed phase 2 of Manor Brook. Talk about a hydroflow device we have installed about a year ago to judge water. Talk about the central retention basin, which is this project just south of us. We will get an update if any of the 3 ESID, Manor Brook, Parkland, or Country Estates would want to talk about their ESIDs. We'll talk about those, and we'll explain a little further what an ESID is. We'll talk about the park a little bit, how to control the water down there. Talk about silt removal and Congressman Joyce. And we're going to talk about the quality of our septic systems for the Geauga County Health Department. We're going to talk about a timeline of installation of the 4 culverts across through Chillicothe Road. And we'll talk about water testing. So we'll get right on here. Basically, remember, in the village, water, as everywhere, flows downhill, but Chillicothe is like a big dam, and the water dams up on the east side of it, trying to go to the west side. Those of you over there, you may want to move over so that you can see. Our first project we're going to talk about is the Manor Brook project. This big opening, to give you kind of a sense of where we are, that's Gurney School. The Manor Brook project is up and through here. This is Manor Brook, and this is Chillicothe, where they come together. We spent about $300,000 last year. They hauled tons of dirt out of here, but that's our Manor Brook project. Phase 2 is being considered, it's right here. The central retention basin, now this green spot, this is Village Hall. Central retention basin is down here. So when we start going through all these, we're sitting right here, right now in Village Hall. This is what it pretty much looks like now, and this is what it's going to look like hopefully in a month. The rocks that you see in there are all designed just to slow down. What we did basically is we took a straight stream and we wiggled it about 1,100 feet, and we cleaned out all the area. We basically restored the floodplain that was there years ago. And it's designed to hold the water, and when the water rises, it goes sideways instead of going rushing downhill. Look. Again, this is Manor Brook, this is Chillicothe, and this blue line is what it used to be. And this blue line here that wiggles around is designed to catch and slow that water. It goes under Manor Brook. Somebody did a very good thing. They put in 3 24-inch culverts under here, which allows for a tremendous amount of water to flow under here at one time. The problem is that water then, when it goes into the stream, which is this, is just, I mean, it's like it's fire hose. It's just coming right at it. You probably, I suggest, Doc, if you sit in a green chair, you can see and be able to appreciate what's going on. That project is pretty well completed. We'll have some construction, some of the plannings will come in. The next thing you're going to hear about, I'm going to jump a little bit. You have this area right here. We're going to cut a culvert across Chillicothe Road. It's going to go right through here. It's going to design to catch all the water on the east side of Chillicothe, and it's going to send that water into this floodplain. And that is designed to stop the flooding of these people's homes on the east side. But basically the water is going to come, it comes in from here and goes around and around and around, and it'll come in from here through this culvert and goes down now under Manor Brook into this wooded area. This, for example, is the water plant, the private water plant which serves the area. Next issue is near Fox Run. This bridge is still there, but it's not safe. The erosion has taken away all the area, land underneath it. This is all on private property. This is an area we're talking to them about. Councilman Porter, if you want to talk a little bit about the thought with Fox Run, it's a good time.
Sure. The idea the village has, the engineer's plan, is on the western side of this parcel, it's a little less than an acre, and there's a screen of trees between the drive, Fox Drive, and where we're thinking, proposing to put this detention basin. It's smaller than the central retention basin, but it will serve to collect water coming from Fox Run before it gets to Sugar Bush. So if the Fox Run HOA is agreeable to this, the village would construct it, maintain it at village expense, and there would be an easement for that purpose in order to continue using it. It doesn't do anything for the Fox Run people, but it sure helps Sugar Bush and everybody else downstream. In my view, Manor Brook Phase 2 that the mayor talked about earlier will help Fox Run. So this is a situation where the water basically goes east to west and north, and people who are to the eastern side are benefiting from larger culverts going under 306 in this summer, the Manor Brook Phase 1 program, and the people in Sugar Bush could benefit from a detention pond of about an acre size on Fox Run. So if we can do Manor Brook Phase 2, that'll help the Fox Run people, and that will be most of what the engineers recommended in 2004 with the stormwater plan, as well as the update of 2021. We're spending a lot of money to control floodwater here. So far, it appears that the central retention basin just south of Village Hall has prevented a significant amount of flooding on the western side of Chillicothe Road south of Bell, specifically around the dentist's office and points to the west from there. So overall, we're going east to west with our stormwater efforts, and we're going to try to knock them out one by one. Whitetail was quite cooperative with Manor Brook Phase 1, and we're hoping that Manor Brook Gardens will be cooperative with Phase 2 at some point, once they have some assurance that Manor Brook Phase 1 worked as designed. So that's how we see it at this point, and we'll see if the Fox Run HOA is interested in helping out. It's entirely up to them. It's private property, as the mayor said, and we don't intend on forcing anybody to help out, but it's a way to help your neighbors downstream and overall control flooding throughout the village. That's what I have here.
Thank you. I'm going to go back here. This land, I'll get to you in a minute. This land here, we call it the Manor Brook project, is owned by the Whitetail Condominium Association. This land here and over here.
Whitetail Masters.
Whitetail Master Association, thank you. And this land here is owned by the Manor Brook Gardens, I forget your entire name, but Manor Brook Gardens. It's kind of an odd situation there. The Whitetail is not anywhere near this, but they let us use their property. Manor Brook doesn't have any condos here, but they also have this property here. It goes back to almost 40 years when that was developed. There were some bankruptcies, and that's how things ended up. Okay, the next thing, we've talked about this little device before. It's called the hydroflow. It is on the culvert, which is under Bell, right near Gurney, and it hangs out over that creek, and it measures water flow. There are 50 some of these across northeast Ohio designed for the water flow. Heidi, you had a question.
I was curious about what funding was done with that first project.
Oh, Fox, pardon me, the Manor Brook, we got a 319 grant. Total was about 300,000, I think, and we paid 40%, so I think we had something like maybe 180 in it. That doesn't, the math doesn't come up right, but anyhow, we usually pay 40%.
We being SRB.
Yes, yeah, your tax money went there.
The rest of it was an Ohio EPA grant.
This is the Sugar Bush culvert. This is the water that's flowing from Manor down through Fox Run and then runs through Sugar Bush. This is an area that usually has a tremendous amount of flooding. Even with this 48-inch culvert, this is where we have slowed the water. And Councilman Porter, good thing. We spent a ton of money and did 2 big projects. We need to really kind of take a year to see if what we did was correct. And then frankly, correct anything that we have any mistakes. We haven't had enough good hard storms yet to know if we have a problem, but we think we did okay. This is the Kennington Spillway, which is just behind us, and that water flows into the central retention basin over here. This was all our money, almost $300,000 to catch the water before it hits Chillicothe Road. And from what early indications are, it has worked also. And it's simply designed to slow the water and then ease it across to Chagrin Lakes. This is the Chagrin Lakes Dam. This is where we really got started with ESIDs. And ESID is an Erosion Special Improvement District created by the state of Ohio. It's one of the better things they've done. It basically allows neighbors to get together or private owners to correct problems with their property. And what they do, like in the Chagrin Lakes area, this is a private dam. There's 11 people that live on it. They have all agreed to have their taxes raised to pay to fix their dam. Now, some of the people who have already sold their homes, people that are buying the houses know that cost comes with their home. It's like when we put in sewers years ago, the cost goes with the property. So if you move, cost goes to the new homeowner. And it's called an ESID. We have 3 of them now. The Parkland people, they got this started. Came to us and said, hey, you can do this. And it looks like it's going to be a very good deal. Originally, they were looking at $400,000 to replace this earthen dam. And now it could be down to less than $100,000. Bruce Hendricks is the guy in charge. I'd asked him to speak, but he could not make it tonight. But the ESID looks pretty good for them. 2 other ESIDs are with Country Estates. They have an issue. They're basically off Alderwood. And then the 3rd one is Manor Brook. I'm not going to pick on Nancy Moran, but they have gotten very well organized, and then frankly have gotten disappointed that
We went through the bidding process. They were due last Friday. Out of 7 bidders, we got 1 response. So disappointing, and they came in double the estimate. So that's not good. We've contacted the rest of the bidders, given them a 1-week extension. I'm not very hopeful. So I don't know what we'll have to do. We'll have to regroup.
Can you basically describe what you're dealing with as far as Manor Brook, what you're trying to solve?
Certainly. So when Manor Brook was first constructed, the drainage program site-wide was basically a series of swales that led the runoff water to 2 ponds, one on the north side of Manor Brook, one on the south. Over the 40 years, those swales have filled in with debris, and we have a lot of standing water. What we're trying to do is simply reinvigorate the original design with some enhancements. So that's pretty much what we're trying to do.
You don't have flooding with the standing, everything's wet all the time.
Everything's wet all the time. We have some issues on foundations because it's wet all the time. We are having erosion issues, particularly like around our driveways and things. So we've got a lot of runoff, a lot of standing water. We've got to get it off the site.
Liz, would you want to add anything to what Nancy said?
I guess the only thing I'd say is that we started this project long before ESID was even, that we knew anything about it, or that the Manor Brook Headwater Spring project began. We were working on our own drainage. We've had a problem for a while.
Okay. Again, this is the Chagrin Lakes Dam. Their water drains out of this pipe here. The man that lives next to it's lost about 8 feet of his yard. so much water coming so fast. So we're trying to slow that down. That'll all be privately, it's on private property, it'll be privately paid for. Family Life Center is in Bainbridge. They have this retention pond. It has never worked properly. We made an adjustment to it about 6 years ago. We've now made another adjustment, but basically the water would come in and just keep going. So we've worked on it to slow the water, let it rise up. But you can see after any few years, it's full of muck and dirt. It's just, the dirt just keeps flowing. Yes.
Do you have investment on that one?
I think it was $7,400. We paid half. This is the next situation. This is just north of the Family Life Center problem. This is the driveway to the Lantern, and the water flows and shuts down Chillicothe Road. And this is back in the 290s. This is where one of the culverts is going to be replaced. We're cutting 4 culverts across Chillicothe. One of them will be here. I don't have any pictures of the park, but basically, if you've ever been to South Russell Park, from the parking lot to the playground, it's wet. This past year, it's a side issue, we had a big problem with dog droppings, but we're gonna take on trying to do something to keep the water between the parking lot and the playground, to control it, to reduce that issue. But I didn't put any pictures in here. This is Pawpaw Lake, and you can see this is the biggest silt issue, I think, in the village. This is all the dirt that has been taken out of their silt pond. It was taken out, I believe, 7 years ago. 6 years ago.
Last did in 2015.
15, so it was out in 15, it was clean in 15.
This is caused, what you have, this is standing on Bell Road, and the water flows through here to a silt pond designed to catch the silt before it goes into Pawpaw Lake. And this, the piece of equipment you see here is the same one over here, just a little close-up shot of it. What we're going to do is we're going to work our way up through Congressman Joyce's office to see if there's anything that we can do as a village, because there's 20-some ponds, most of them are full of silt. And is there any way or anything that they can do to help us? So that's coming up. Our next issue is trying to do, can we find, frankly, somebody else's money to help us with all these ponds? I know the comment made that Southwick is about 4 inches deep at one end, and there's a lot of money going out by a lot of you for these issues.
Look, I'd encourage you to go, all of you, to go while this is being done and go beyond the silt pond and look at the lake on the southern portion of the lake, because the lake is lower while we're doing this. And you will see that the entire southern portion of our lake has been filled in with silt as well. And as a result, when we're done with this, we're gonna have to have somebody drag the silt out, probably the first third of the lake. And I'd encourage all of you to go look at it while the lake is low, so you can see it pretty remarkable.
I'd like to add to this as well. The deposits that comes into the silt pond, into the lake, is not just arising from South Boston, it also comes from Bainbridge, it comes from Auburn. And believe it or not, it starts, stay on its way all the way up to Newbury as well. So the reason for these large deposits is not just problems or runoff in South Russell, it is also in neighboring communities. So I think that would definitely be something we should bring up with Mr. Joyce, that this is not just a local issue, it's a regional issue. One more thing about that, this is the Silver Creek that runs through that. The Silver Creek feeds Chagrin River, and Chagrin River is a national waterway. So keep that in mind as well when you have contact with Mr. Joyce. Thank you.
Is Paul Lake a man-made lake or is it a natural lake?
It was dammed to create a lake,
Okay. And they,
so we have our own dams we maintain.
so someone put a silt pond and a control silt going in there and hasn't been maintained properly, that's why you have silt in the main lake? Is that what's going on?
Well, so it's a combination of things. So we dredged in 2000. We dredged again in 2015, so 15 years later. And then since 2015, we've accumulated substantially more silt than we have historically for any number of reasons. We did this project out 2 years ago now, and it's been underway for 8 months. So it's not a question of we're not maintaining it. It's a question of it's filling up faster than it has historically. And because I think it's gotten worse while we were doing this over a period of time because our contractor comes when he's able to, I think we've gotten more silt in the mouth of the lake than we might otherwise have because of this.
There was also the Dominion gas line that happened in the middle of those two time periods.
Righty, am I allowed to state a fact? The Lake Louise Bridge project was why we didn't dredge 2 years ago, was a big part of it. They replaced the entire bridge and we knew there'd be more.
We wanted to wait until they were done.
Mr. Mayor, if,
Yes.
this point of order to help Leslie out, if the guests could identify themselves while she's taking minutes.
Sorry. Richard Haber from Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Chris,
Okay,
Just a question, is the contractor who's doing the silt pond, are they also going to be the contractor for the lake?
We haven't bid the.
You haven't bid the lake yet?
No, we've looked at the issue of dredging our lake. The cost to dredge our lake is gonna be somewhere in excess of $200,000 to $300,000 if we were gonna dredge the lake the way it should be done. There's a number of different contractors that do it with boats, and there's a number of different ways they can do it. It's cost prohibitive for our community though to do a $300,000 dredging project. So when we're done with the silt pond, what we're looking to do is incremental management of the lake. So we may do some portions of it every 2 years or something to try and improve the quality of the lake. Our hope is by getting the silt pond back to the right level, that will at least slow down the degradation of our lake while we try and manage it in increments in a way that our community can afford.
Thank you.
It's expensive,
Yeah.
which is why we're looking for you guys to help.
We appreciate that. Thank you for the explanation.
okay, two other things on the agenda. This is the quality of our present septic systems for the county health. We have no issues that we know of right now with septic systems. They're required to be cleaned out every 3 years. If people don't do it, we send them a notice and it gets done. So we don't know of any issues. And Geauga Health is, frankly, they're overwhelmed a little bit right now, but they haven't had any issues. But we're still gonna take a look. We still think we wanna make sure, but we have no septic issues that we know of right now.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure, Kevin.
Kevin Kiesler. You're making us pump our tanks every 3 years, but where's the mandate to make sure that their systems are actually working? Are they hiring a company to make sure that they come out and do the chlorination and their pumps are working and their aerators are working and all of that? Okay, we can pump our tanks every 3 years, but if our leach fields aren't working and our sandboxes aren't working right, they're not being maintained, and the new mound systems and the new, I call it turtle system, if the ultra blue lights and all that aren't working and they're not paying a contract every year to have them maintained, is this being watched by Jog County anymore? Because as of June, didn't Jog County quit doing mandatory inspections with house sale?
Yes, they do.
So if the homeowner or the home buyer doesn't have it inspected,
Kevin, I can't answer that, and I
I'm
I
just
think
asking.
the answer is, we don't know if the system's working. I think when you've got to get it pumped every 3 years.
But the guys pumping it are not really licensed to inspect the whole system.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
They're just pumpers.
Is the 3-year pumping a South Russell, requirement or John, so you could also implement an inspection on 3 years? I'm not even sure what it includes.
No, we just,
If you're not concerned about it.
we went from 2 to 3 years, having people have their septic tanks cleaned.
Yeah.
Kevin's got a good point. I don't think we know if you've got a clean tank that's still not working properly.
Now, did we, like Paul Lake's down there, from anybody's ever tested that lake to see what, after a good rainstorm, to see what's in there?
That's coming up.
We consistently test. We do actually test,
Okay.
because we don't want to.
Yes, behind us.
Hi, Terry Mitchell. To answer that question to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if you can hear me, okay? I work as a realtor here in the village, and my understanding in my experience with the septic, we've worked extensively with Geauga County for a long time, and yes, you're correct. We do not have a point of sale for Geauga County any longer. Where it becomes dicey is if someone is buying a house with cash, they don't have to worry about those stipulations. Or if there's an agreement between the buyer and the seller, and the person's putting down enough money, not every lender will require that. It's not necessarily required by lenders to transfer title, but there are some that will not fund a loan unless they see that the system is quote unquote functioning as designed. A lot of people have opted, like for our septic, we have a service agreement from the installer, where they come out every so many months and they check it and make sure that we are not discharging anything that shouldn't be and all the parts are working properly. But Geauga County is in flux. I mean, they're, as you said, all over the place now just trying to catch up, because the problem we had was there were people that were maintaining things the way they should. There were other people that couldn't afford to or didn't, and unless they sold their house with the point of sale, it was never mandated that they had to check them. So you might be in your house 40 years with everything leaching and running down the road and going into Pawpaw Lake, for example. And it was hard to watch that. So our hope is that they will have a balance where people will be responsible about the way they do that. But as far as something being mandated, right now, it's just pumping, as far as we understand from a real estate standpoint, unless a lender is involved and puts another layer on the transaction.
I would say at the next building committee meeting on May the 4th, one of the items on that agenda will be, how do we know septic systems are truly working? I can't answer that. That's a good question.
The county used to check them before you.
Yeah.
Sold your house, they would check.
But that's what's changed.
They would check.
They don't, yeah, the buyer and seller don't agree. The buyer may say that they're not worried about it, you know, or a seller will say, I'm not willing to fix it, and the buyer will sign off on that contingency. So right now, it's a little loose.
Or sometimes the buyer gives the homeowner the money to put the new septic in, and it may take them 1 to 2, 3 years before they decide to get it done.
Right, well, and they used to, the impetus was
Yeah,
that the money
about 2
had to be
years.
held in escrow, and it was 1.5 times the amount to replace the system. So people didn't want their money tied up, so that kind of lit a fire under them to make
I
sure.
was told the main reason the Geauga County got away from it was because they were getting a lot of squawk about money being left in escrow.
Yeah, there
They
were.
were getting a lot of heat because money was sitting in escrow and they weren't getting the systems for it.
You only test the two, they're like 8 months a year, they won't do it during the winter time. They wouldn't do it during the winter time. So you got a small window of area, you can sell your house, you sold it in the winter, you couldn't do a septic inspection.
Well, and if a house is vacant, they can't test it because the test is not accurate.
60
because they're not
days.
using it, yeah.
We
60 days.
don't have the answers for that question.
Although I will say, the county health department does investigate any complaints. So I mean, other than for sale, I understand, but I mean, you know, that was definitely a mandated program at the point of sale. I'm just saying, if there's a complaint and you suspect an issue either with your own or with someone else's, you certainly can call that in and they will do an inspection.
Now, we did mention 4 culverts, so I just want to tell you ahead of time, traffic on Chillicothe Road, the month of June, is going to be down to 1 lane at times. You think you've had a mess down by Bainbridge, it's going to be the same issue up here. 4 culverts are going to be cut. The first one is right along, it's from the Lantern over to Chagrin Lakes. It's going to be taken from a 12 to a 15 inch. That's the first culvert. Now, the Family Life Center retention pond's about right here. And that's holding a tremendous amount of water. And it comes into here, it's a 12 inch pipe. So we're putting a 15 inch so we can keep this road open. That'll be the first culvert.
And then what's that square?
This thing, that's the Lantern,
Property?
retirement memory care.
And it flows toward Bainbridge then?
The water flows
From
Across 306.
And goes south?
and eventually it'll go down through all these Chagrin Lakes, and then it'll go down through here, yes, goes down,
And they can handle that water on that side?
yes.
Oops.
Okay. I think I thumped my finger and lost it all. All right. No, pardon me. Okay. Here we go, all right. That's the first one. The second culvert is just south of us here. That's the water, it runs behind Village Hall. It catches the water from the central retention basin, and then it sends that to Chagrin Lakes. It goes across here, and that is Chagrin Lakes swim pond. That's a privately owned swim pond. Then it goes to the Parkland area, and that's where the dam is. And then it flows that way. That'll be the second culvert. Be right out here. Third culvert, Tim, can you explain this a little bit as to the need for this culvert right at the intersection, what we're doing here?
There's a 12-inch culvert that goes from the insurance property straight across past the gas station, or gas station used to be, down to the west. The change is gonna be, they're gonna change the flow direction of that line is gonna go across Bell to the south side of Bell and tie into a storm drain there, and then it's gonna go to the west from there. So they're not gonna cross the road, not gonna cross Chillicothe at that point, it's gonna cross Bell.
Also, this summer or next summer, we're putting in a new traffic light here.
Can I go back to him real quick? So it's gonna go behind the gas station then?
No, it's gonna go across Bell from the Red Barn property to the village property in that direction,
Okay.
and then tie into an existing pipe that's gonna go under Chillicothe and then onto the west.
So pretty much what you're looking out the window here, Chris.
And the fourth culvert is gonna be approximately right here where Manor Brook and Chillicothe come together. That's designed to catch this water, which is on the east side of Chillicothe, and get it to the west side.
Mayor, can you go to the picture of the Manor Brook Rock, show where that, is gonna come under and go to?
Good guess, Mayor.
So this, see this way, the little kind of comes in?
Yep.
This way, it's gonna be for 5141 Chillicothe Road, right across here. It's gonna be a 30-inch culvert. It goes, right now, there's a huge mound there, where there's no trees, anything.
Is there a culvert there now?
Yes,
How
small
big is
one.
it? You know,
15 maybe, does anybody recall?
12.
12, could be a 12 or 15. It's just not enough.
So the water that's gonna come across there, has anybody calculated that we can handle that downstream, since we didn't build Manabrook 2. Is what I'm getting, is our concern, my concern.
Right,
Because right now that's acting as a retention pond basically on the other side. If you increase that,
yes.
you're allowing that water to come underneath without doing Manabrook 2.
We want the water to flow in here and just fill this floodplain.
It's gonna go uphill there,
No,
the water.
No, it won't, it will
Well, there's
not.
only a short distance from where you're saying
Yes.
that pipe to Manabrook Road, there. That's a very short distance to resort from a 12-inch to whatever you said it was.
30.
Yeah, 12.
That's a huge pipe, that's a huge amount of water increase. That's gonna be dumped down into Fox Run and downhill from there.
They're confident, they've done this for years,
Okay,
with our consultants.
but is he here tonight,
What's
the
that?
engineer?
No,
No, he's not here tonight, no. He's here the first meeting of the month, which is the second Monday of every month. Yeah, we've talked this, frankly, for 5 years. We started in 2019 talking about this situation, and they've been very confident that they.
That was the whole situation, the whole Manabrook 1 and 2. We divided into 1 and 2 now.
Yes.
But it was the whole Manabrook project as one when we talked about it originally. Now we're down to Manabrook 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So our issue is that it's been readdressed since Manabrook 2 hasn't been built. What are the consequences of putting that pipe in and not having Manabrook 2 to absorb the amount of increase in water that's gonna come down there? And everybody downstream from that.
Is there a flow regulator at the end of Manabrook 1?
Should have been done.
I think they put the check, I think they put the check in,
Yeah.
which is what they did.
I'm
They
sorry.
put a check in,
Okay.
which
Tom.
is,
Councilman Campbell.
I want to thank you all for being here tonight, to your opinion. I made a point to bring up in council several years ago that I wasn't going to support an issue that would solve a problem on the east side of Chillicothe, but cause a problem on the southwest side of the village. And we were assured by CT consultants that the southwestern part of the village will be able to handle it.
With the whole project or just one half the project?
Just the way it's going to be now.
And that be what we're looking at.
Yes.
So if you put the pipe in, you can't tell me that half the project's gonna handle the water.
Well,
That's what the engineer has
that's what the engineer told us.
indicated.
I just asked you, if you said the whole project, not half the project. I'm asking.
No,
you
he
if
said
half
the project as
As it exists now.
As it exists now.
Stands today.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's what we're looking for.
Because the floodplain increases the surface area that the water can go to. The engineer's calculations indicate that the increase in volume of water will not have any more of a detrimental effect with phase 1 done, only phase 1 done, than if nothing had been done. So the water coming from the east through the larger culverts in the Manabrook phase 1 will spread out. That's how they deal with it.
Well, I understand the concept, but I was just wondering if you know what I'm looking at? You did half the project there, and the calculations were done on a whole project, not half a project.
Calculations were redone.
I've asked that question, I've never seen any data, in fact, I've never seen any data from the first project, the whole project. And, so I just want to make sure that's been done. That's our concern being downstream from this project, is that we're putting in bigger culverts, and there's no guarantee that anything will work. It's kind of like building a dam and saying, oh, we'll see what happens.
I don't want to say guarantee, but they're very, they said this should work, this should handle the water. We, of course, we don't want to do this unless we have to. I don't want to.
No, we're just trying to do our due diligence and making sure that, that this is being thought out and done correctly, because there's a lot of people downstream of this project here that we let that amount of water go underneath that street there, that could be flooded out. It's concerning, very concerning being downstream of this project. My next question is I have for the mayor, is you mentioned the bridge in Wood area, Fox Run was deemed unsafe. Do you know who did that?
No, in fact, I've heard for a couple of years that the one leg is no longer, is that correct?
No, I don't know anybody, it's our creek, I was just asking where that came from, because I've never heard that before.
I had heard over the years that the water had eroded one of the 4 lakes, holding it up. You can walk across it now?
Oh, it's still usable, but I just wondered who deemed it unsafe, as you mentioned.
Okay, unsafe is probably not my correct term, but I heard that one of the 4
Now, can we
lakes.
go back to the Fox Run picture?
This one right here?
No, that's.
Fox Run, that's Manor.
Oh, the Fox Run picture, okay. Let's see. This, right here.
Right, so the area there that you're proposing on the right-hand side there, that's where our common area where we use for recreation and stuff like that. We've had soccer teams practice there and stuff. Have you considered the property on the other side of that river, between the school and the river? That is basically unused.
The wooded portion?
I'm just trying it out there, because I see it coming.
This side of Gertie's
You're
driveway,
looking at, between Gurney,
Gurney and the bridge,
excuse me?
in the woods. You're talking about between Gurney and the bridge?
Yeah,
Woods,
between
that wooded area.
Yeah, wooded area, yeah.
I
Their driveway in your.
can't answer that.
Yeah, I just thinking that,
Do we have access to the engineer's plan that was part of the easement proposal?
Was on a phone board at the last council meeting.
No, but it was an attachment to the easement that I sent.
I haven't had a chance to digest that.
Understood.
I just was throwing it out there that,
Okay.
Yes, in the back.
I'm not sure what area you're talking about. I'd rather look at a map.
If we could go back for a second to Papa, you had mentioned that we have plans to speak with David Joyce in his office. Living in Papa, I'm just wondering, from a resident standpoint, because they're working furiously to try to dredge that silt pond right now. Our lake, I would encourage anyone to go look at the entire lake, as Rich said, in the silt pond, because, in the short time that we've lived there, it's my understanding, just from learning the history, they've never had issues like this. We've obviously maintained it over the years, but the lake is such now that with summer coming, we really can't use it. The lake has receded so much because of this dredging project, and the silt is so high. It's affecting the wildlife, it's affecting the beaches, it really looks awful. And just from, I look at it from a real estate standpoint too, just, people coming into the area, seeing these areas that have these quote unquote issues. It affects housing values, we're all linked, so I'm just wondering if we have a timetable that we are talking about in terms of approaching David Joyce's office and what we realistically can expect from that. I know in government things take a long time, but it's really getting bad.
No, we talked to one of his people, I guess I'll call it. We would sit down with them in May to talk. I don't know, Dave lives in South Russell.
Yes,
but,
I know.
Getting a chance to get in.
He lives in Vandenberg, I believe, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he's-
So I'm
yeah.
sure that project will, okay.
And we work with some different groups, between the Green River Water Partners and other groups. They know where the money is, and we don't know of anything that we're missing. But we're gonna at least sit down and say, is there something that could be done? Is there something we could do as a village cooperatively? Spending money on private property is just, you just can't do that unless there's a huge reason.
I understand that it gets very complicated, but the problem is a lot of the communities that are surrounding us, we're the recipients of those, and if they aren't private, it gets very complicated. And I know from where you said that that's an added layer of challenge, but even though we are private, we're not creating a lot of the problem that's coming from public area. And we're just receiving that issue, and we're struggling very hard to tap the funds that we have been saving and all of our resources But to be doing this every few years, it's just not realistic for the residents, you know?
So it was the 180K that was not on private property that went to Manor and then the, let's see here.
300,000 and 3,700?
Yep, 300,000,
Plus the 4 culverts?
and then the 7,400 that we discussed that you guys split up with the family life center. Those were all private property examples?
Family life, the family life center is, yes, well, that's church property. And we asked them to fix their retention basin, and they asked us if we'd pay half, and we did.
Actually, it was a nuisance, it was actually a nuisance action, and it was a settlement of a nuisance complaint, so it was not just a simple, hey, they requested us to help out.
What?
We cited them for nuisance.
What would we call $50,000 expense for Silk Pond in other communities every 5 years, probably?
I'm just letting you know, it was not the same.
No, I understand.
Okay.
You don't think it's fair? Well, if we look at the map, we've got a 20-acre lake compared to.
I think what the point is the defense from South Russell Village that we can't spend money for private communities is false. You spend money all the time to help communities who demonstrate that they need it. Every dollar that you're spending over here is helping some member of this community. And some of that's our money. The difference is that South Russell Village doesn't spend any money to help Paw Paw Lake. Because your defense is, with respect to every issue we bring to your attention, is you're private, so we can't spend the money. The silt issue is not created by Paw Paw Lake. The silt issue comes from downstream. And your public statement with respect to the Meadowbrook project was that this project was going to specifically help reduce sediment and nutrient pollution to the Chagrin River and Lake Erie as a result of this project. What we need is for you to help us figure out how you can slow down the sediment and nutrient pollution into our lake that's coming from the streams that feed into our lake, because we are bearing 100% of the expense of that, and we have community members who simply can't do it. So if the community's not gonna help us, we're gonna be back here every month clamoring for you to do it, because you've shown a willingness and an ability to spend money on private property for the benefit sequentially of communities, every community but ours.
So basically, if we wanted to look real hard at this, you would want us to do something right about here. When the water coming out of Lake Louise and the water coming from Silver Creek, that we would catch that water and that silt before it comes into your silt pond.
I would love for you to find a way to slow down. We have a silt pond because we understand silt flows downstream, but it's accelerating. And we can't dredge this silt pond every 5 years. It's $50,000 this time. I can tell you right now, that contractor won't do it again for $50,000. He's been out there for weeks. It's gonna cost us more the next time. So somebody has to help us solve the problem. Because the solution is clearly not putting a strainer up at the edge of our silt pond to capture all of the silt coming from somewhere else, because that will just fill up under the bridge, and then you guys can dig it out every year. We'll just filter the water coming in and catch it. It's not a realistic solution for us. It's not a realistic solution for you. There has to be a solution. What you did over here solved some of that sediment problem downstream over here. The same type of solutions can work for us, but somebody has to look at it and be willing to try and solve a problem for people who are paying taxes and who get almost no services from this community.
Was Manor and Kensington incurring personal expenses with their water issues?
Nothing was done at Kensington, was it? Kensington hasn't done any of that. Actually, Kensington just put in a bubbler system in Bullfrog Pond at their own expense.
As well as clearing out.
So an aeration system is what they put in?
Yes.
clearing out a neglected retention basin, and they did that at their own expense.
And that's just from standing water, that's not from water flow issues or from water issues in general, that's just to make sure that they're not getting bacterial buildup in the lakes, right?
No,
It's sediment too.
They're trying to stop the.
The bubblers, they help
Silt
slow the sediment build, the bottom.
and it was also an attempt to mitigate some of the water which was flowing downhill, down Bell towards, what's the neighboring
So
community?
let's talk about bubblers. We looked into bubblers, and what the contractors told us is that the current depth of our lake, it makes no sense for us to install bubblers because there's too much sediment in our lake right now. Until we dredge that, putting in bubblers will do us no good. We actually looked at it, we priced them out, but it won't solve our problem.
Does Geauga County Water Resources have any resources for them? I mean, they control water, I think, because I've built some places before, they make me put in tons of silt fences and stuff, and they control water. Isn't that something in their department too, Geauga County?
Not that we know of.
Are you thinking maybe of the conservation, the soil and water?
Yeah, soil and water, I'm sorry, I must have
Conservation.
said something, yeah. soil and
They
water.
might be able to access.
EPA, we're talking about a system that feeds into the Chagrin River. There has to be other governmental authorities that have some interest in the quality of this water and in maintaining these lakes and streams in a functional way that will also, by the way, aid in
Watershed.
water management for the community. I mean, right now, we're doing an awful lot for
It's hard to say.
306 and west. All of the water at 306 and east flows into our lake. It either comes, I mean, literally everything, if you look at the topography, it all flows to Paw Paw Lake. Some of it comes from the power. And I will tell you, we have the same problem in Manabrook County, which all of our soils are filled in. And we've looked at the idea of how we're gonna improve our drainage within our community, because we have areas that are just universally wet now, because so much water flows across our community, because that's the way the math goes. We've looked at it, the cost of doing that for us is cost prohibitive, so we're gonna probably get backhoes ourselves and start cleaning out swales. That's the reality, but those swales have all filled in as well, because there's so much water and sediment flowing because of all the development that's gone on over the years. It's not just new development, it's all of this development. So it's a community problem, and you can't just ignore Paw is because we're private, because that's not what you do anywhere else.
To your point, the water that, we actually have water that comes from Whitetail, it comes down through Manor Brook.
Yeah.
So to your point,
And it washes sediment in, it fills in the swales, and then it makes it difficult for you to
just to be
manage.
clear, Manor Brook did not benefit in any way from the Manor Brook project. That was solely people west,
Working down.
or east.
Joking at the Paw Paw Lake. I don't know how to fix this problem, okay? But all I know is this, okay? We're taxpayers here, right? When Paw Paw Lake was put in, we just celebrated our 100th anniversary 2 years ago, right? When that lake was first put in, it was beautiful, pristine, crystal clear, hardly any problems with it. If we had to dredge it out, you bet, every 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Now we're doing it every 5 years at our expense, right? The city, the village of South Russell gladly let all this development go on around us and collect big time tax money for it gladly. Oh, put another development, oh, put another one in, put another one in. Well, now look what's happening. We had to put a road in 4 years ago, 3 years ago, because of all the erosion that occurred from all the water running over it. $200,000 road. We had to bear the expense of that, right? So this is not, this village has gained all this wonderful tax money from all this property tax and everything else that's going on for the buildup of the community. We're absorbing the problem, and it's gonna stop. It has to. And we're gonna find a solution for it to help us out. Or you're not gonna have a Paw Paw Lake, because residents, no one's gonna move there. And the residents are gonna move out, and we're just gonna abandon the whole damn thing, because we can't afford to maintain it for 42 homeowners. We can't do it. So we're gonna find a solution for it, and this group's gonna find it. Somewhere there's money for this, somewhere, to fix this.
All right,
So we can't keep hearing, oh, it's private property, we can't deal with it. Not anymore.
all right, well, here's things that we will try. We'll deal with Congressman Joyce. We'll deal with Spring River Watershed Partners, Java Soil and Water, and EPA. Those 4 groups. We will check in with them and get back to you. I don't know the solution. Our engineers have worked all across the country. They haven't come and found a way for us to do this, but maybe there is something that we can do to get money to help everybody's water issue. I don't know it. Just a second.
So let me add,
Kent is next.
Hey, Christmas is company. For the record, I can send you a copy, Mayor, Coons, for the schedule of today, George's office in DC. So you got an email with that contact.
All right.
You mentioned CT consultants and our engineers haven't come up with a solution. Have they actually looked at the pop-up lake issue direct?
So we've had solutions, but it's been the most expensive possible solutions we tested. Basically kill any type of idea. I mean, $1 million bridges in Paul Lake that they know we wouldn't be able to afford. So they could basically just kick the bucket and not address the real issues. Nothing grandfathered in. I mean, we're talking about a neighborhood that has no roads done by the city. We have to incur all of our road expenses. We have our own water system, our own septic system. What services are we getting? South Russell is netting more off of Paw Lake than our neighborhoods in the community, and getting zero help.
and realistically, Paw Lake was here before the village was.
All right. To respond,
As a summer.
I would say we will get back to you on September the 19th. That's a Tuesday, 7 o'clock. One last thing I wanted to show you. You have a handout in front of you.
I just want to make
Ken,
one more comment.
go ahead.
So, we've heard that before. I have been in this position as the board president. We'll get back to you, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. To Joe's point, at some point, there needs to be concrete action, not just we'll get back to you. So, just like.
Let me know legally what we can do, and I will gladly get it done. All right. You have in front of you a piece of,
Time.
please.
Let you know legally. You're the board. You guys gotta figure this out. You're collecting our tax money. We've elected you to deal with that. We're not experts at this, finding a legal solution to working through government and all the different organizations and agencies and all this nonsense. This is what you do. That's not what we do, okay? And, if we have to go down and see Representative Joyce and stand at his doorstep and say, hey, what are you gonna do? All right? Beyond you, because this isn't gonna just go away and we're gonna have another meeting and kick the can down the road and then we're gonna have another meeting to talk about another meeting. We gotta have concrete action and a plan and get on it.
Well, I've told you the 4 groups that we're gonna look for money for. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean,
It's just a little disconcerting when you're finding almost $500,000 for other instances, and then you can't make any financial commitments at all to Paw Lake. Like if there's compromises to be made here, but zero is not a compromise.
I don't know where a legal compromise is, but we will try to find it.
Good.
All right, last thing in front of me, you have a picture of a map of the village. It has 26 numbers on it. We are going to sample water quality, and those are just some proposed locations. We did send out in the previous newsletter asking people if you wanted your water tested by the village. Out of 1,300 homes, we had 13 people apply for that. Our thought is that we would be hiring a gentleman. It costs $50 for him. He will come to these different locations and do a test. The water sample that he will take will go to BioSolutions. They'll do another test so we can look at, are our septic systems working? Do we have water issue problems in the village? And as I wrote up in the corner, these were just proposed. The Public Utilities Commission will look at this. All right, it's 8 o'clock.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You indicate Paw Lake spillway that you're gonna test?
That would be one place.
So the spillway is exiting Paw Lake?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not gonna test entering Paw Lake?
No, I get the 2, if you look, the 2, you get Lake Louise and Silver Creek coming into you.
Okay, sorry.
So, Mayor, could you please explain what we're testing for? Is it for quality of potable, drinkable well water? Is it the quality of pond water? What is it we're testing?
To look for what is in the water. I don't know exactly what would be tested, but it was just the idea of 26 random locations, which I think would be good to test.
It's for E. coli, fecal matter.
Yes.
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
We do that for our, like, that's a standard.
Right, and you guys have been doing that for years, haven't you?
We do it to test so that we can let people know stages.
When you said you had 13 locations, did you send something out on that? I missed
We
it.
sent out in the winter newsletter, if you want your water tested. Yeah, we just heard.
Are you asking to be added, Chris?
What's that?
You're asking to be added?
No, I'm on, our neighborhood's on sewer system, so I'm not sure we're adding it to your tests. I don't think, I would hope our bills are contained, you know. If I had septic on my property, I would be concerned I'd have my watershed. I don't think you spend your money wisely and do where the septic systems are.
Well, and, I can't recall the wording of the memo, but did it infer to people that we'd be testing their well water?
No.
It didn't refer to anything, it was their water quality.
What did,
I don't know that.
what did the people sign up for then, the 13 people?
I mean, these all look like stormwater, like you're testing.
Yeah, so
No,
this
it was just stormwater. I didn't put in the 13 homes because I don't know that we're gonna do all 13 of them.
They want you to test them.
Yeah, but they were concerned. I think Frank would say a free test, and better than what you could do with Connecticut or something like that. Okay, thank you all for being here. This is a special council meeting, so we need to have a motion to adjourn.
No.
So moved by Porter, second by Kavanaugh, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Okay, thank you guys. Water runoff's a tough thing, that's a tough thing to handle.
We're making progress. Maybe not as fast as we want, but we're making progress.
Okay, so, Ruth, what do you think?
Hang on, I don't think they got that.
Yeah.
Could you do a 319 project in that area where they have the soap pond? Would that help them? For what? For Buffalo?
Yeah, and give us a benefit.
You know? But is there,
You're not getting, you're not getting stormwater runoff.
Case